So today I will be presenting my paper on the correlation between the marital status of divorced individuals and how that correlates with favoring sex education being taught in public schooling, with the control variable of social class, specifically lower social class. So this paper presents calculations and data of the correlation between divorced parents in the favoring of sex education being taught in public schooling. Throughout historical changes in society, these views have been shaped by our generations. There are several factors that can alter someone's opinion on sex education being taught in public schooling, and those factors could be race, gender, social class, and many more. However, this paper focuses mainly on marital status as the independent variable, and the independent variable that I am controlling for is social class, and I am focusing mainly on lower social class. So basically, how I went about this is the data that I was pulling from comes from a database called General Social Survey. From there, there's a list of several different variables that I can choose from. I went through each variable, and from my personal experience in life, I decided to choose these variables as my independent control and my dependent variables, just because I come from the household of divorced parents. And so the way that I did learn about the birds and the bees was, of course, through public schooling. And so when choosing these variables, I just wanted to see if there was any correlation of because like in the school that I went to, we had to have permission slips before attending these classes, and we had to, of course, my mom would have to check yes or no if she's okay with me going to these classes, which my mom checked yes every year. So I just wanted to know, like, where was there any correlation between like her marital status and why she was sending me to these classes rather than her just teaching me herself. Through going through my research, I did think that there would be a correlation just because, like, several sources were talking about how important the child and parent relationship is, and how divorce basically can like split up that relationship that's really needed. Um, and it's just like that can cause early childbearing and different other types of adult like altering outcomes. So, and ways to prevent that would be sex education of early childbearing and prevention of STDs and STIs being transmitted. And so there's specifically portions of sex education that covers contraceptives and birth control. And so it's just like when reading these articles and researching about it, researching other things that people have like done, I can see that I would think that there would be a correlation between them. So going back to my variables that I chose through the GSS database, for example, my independent variable is marital status. So when having this old variable, it has different values labeled 1 through 3, 4, 5. It varied for my variables. But what I did was I changed this into a new variable, and I lowered the amount of values that I had. So from I sorry for the value of 0, I made that anything that was not divorced. And so the value of 1 was all responses that were divorced. And I did this to just kind of minimize all of these different fluctuating things that I could get when getting graphs and running data and regressions and things like that, to make things easier and to have that more focused look. But when I was running my calculations and tests for each one of my variables, they came back insignificant. Unfortunately, there weren't a lot of people that even said that they were divorced. So that obviously gave me that imbalance between my variables. Um, so yes, my ultimately this did not prove my hypothesis. Um, but what I would do differently the next time is that I would kind of step away from sex education, and I would focus more on premarital sex and see how divorce affects that rather than sex education. Um, because, like, after doing all of this, I didn't want to talk about it to my mom because I didn't want to, like, change my research because of whatever she would say. Um, and so after talking with her, after everything was written and everything was put together, she was like, I would think that there was no correlation because my marital status was not a reason of why I chose you to go to those classes. And so I was like, okay, but now that I see, it was insignificant, sadly, but next time I would probably step away from looking at the correlation between marital status and sex education, opinions on sex education being taught in public schools, and I would just kind of see how the marital status of divorce can affect premarital sex in teenagers and in young adults. So that pretty much concludes my presentation for my paper, and thank you.